Alright fellas, it's been a few days since the Inoue Neri fight, and after any Inoue fight, it triggers the discussion of where does he sit on the pound for pound list. For this discussion at the moment, the debate is it Terence Crawford at number 1, or is it Inoue at number 1? And well, that's a hard question to answer. So today I want to present you with everything I think is important in making that decision for yourself. I want to go over how usually the pound for pound rankings are decided, and the facts which back both fighters' claims for the top spot, and then I might throw in my own opinion at the end. But let's get right into it. First and foremost, a pound for pound list is a ranking system used to rank who's the best fighter in the world regardless of weight class. Now, is there a definitive pound for pound list which is non-biased? No. Now, you might have seen pound for pound lists before. Usually they're made by media organizations such as ESPN, The Ring, or things such as the Boxers Writers Association of America. And additionally, there's a lot of apparent experts online who release their own lists. So you might have in the past been fooled for thinking there's one definitive list. But no, they're all kind of made by various journalists, media, or belt organizations with their own biases. But what are these rankings meant to be decided on? So let's have a look. There's no major guidelines, but I would say these rankings are based on 5 major categories. The first being skill and technique, the second being their respective accomplishments, third being quality of opposition, fourth being consistency, and fifth being their overall impact. Now, these sort of categories would make sense if not biased. Overall impact and relevance of accomplishments really can be interpreted differently, with biased alliances towards belt organizations, fighters and promoters swaying some of these lists in terms of those categories. So let's break down these categories with Inoue and Crawford just to have a look and to be able to understand why these fighters are ranked 1 and 2. First, let's look at skill and technique. Both fighters are some of the most technically impressive fighters on the planet. Inoue is known for his exceptional power, his speed, and absolute technical mastery. He's a precise pinpoint puncher, with knockouts being able to happen on the front or back foot. He's a master of distance, and his footwork enables him to control the distance perfectly, setting up powerful combinations, while additionally, he's also a lethal counterpuncher. Terence Crawford, on the other hand, I would say is best known for his versatility and adaptability. He can fight effectively in both stances, even beating Spence in southpaw. This makes him hard to plan for and unpredictably dangerous. His defense is top notch and is also a lethal counterpuncher. His ring IQ is considered as one of or the best in the world, almost always outsmarting his opponents. Now, accomplishments. We're looking at 2 different fighters who have been undisputed in 2 weight classes each. For Inoue, he holds the super bantamweight undisputed titles and previously held the undisputed bantamweight titles. He has also held titles at light flyweight and super flyweight. Crawford has held the undisputed title at light welterweight and currently holds it at welterweight, and he's also been a champion at lightweight. Now, quality of opposition. I would say from an overall career perspective, Inoue has had an incredibly high level. We're talking about a guy who won his first world title in his 6th fight. He's really the definition of clearing through divisions and taking the best fight available. Recent fights in Tapales, Fulton and Neri proves this point. He's taken the best fights he can possibly make at any time. While Crawford is also versatile in competition, fights such as Porter, Khan and Brook are standouts, with his biggest win coming in his last fight against Errol Spence Jr. with an absolute dominant display. His upcoming fight against Madrimov I also think is a sign he's willing to verse the best, even if it's not the biggest, most attention-grabbing fight. Don't sleep on Madrimov though, but I'll talk about that another day. In terms of consistency and activity, Inoue has been one of the most active world champions, having a total of 8 fights since 2020, while Crawford has only had 4 fights since 2020. In terms of overall impact, both fighters are significant for being 2-time undisputed champions. For Inoue, he's led the way for big money fights at those lower divisions, and have captured the hearts of Japanese fans for the first time in a long time for the sport of boxing. Although maybe not a household name in America, he truly holds a massive, broad international fan base. While Crawford is known internationally as well, but most of his base resides in America. Although other than the Spence fights, his fights aren't the biggest on the planet, he can still lure a decent sized crowd and is incredibly universally respected. With all this being considered, I just want to put my 2 cents in. This isn't a definitive answer, as all pound for pound lists are just opinion. It is my opinion. And who do I think, as this video goes out, is pound for pound number 1? I have to say Inoue, but before all of you Americans click off, let me explain myself. I am a huge fan of both. I think the pendulum on who's number 1 can swing very often. I just think Inoue of recent has had the more challenging fights on paper than Crawford, but yes, the Spence fight was huge, and that's what earns Crawford a number 2 spot. But in my opinion, Inoue has had some hugely difficult fights, more often than Crawford. I look at fights such as the Fulton fight, where a lot of boxing fans, and don't give me revisionist history, but they thought Fulton very much could beat Inoue and could be his kryptonite. He was not. Inoue simply challenged and has fought more world champions more recently. Now if Crawford goes up and demolishes Madrimov, and if Inoue takes a Goodman fight, Crawford very much could be back at number 1, and furthermore, if Crawford fights Canelo and somehow beats him, easily number 1. But looking historically for Crawford, recentish fights against say Porter and Brook are debatable on the quality of opposition. World-class fighters no doubt, but when he fought Porter admitted he was already retired in his head, and when he fought Kell Brook, he was past his prime and weight drained. To sum it up, using the 5 criteria I just mentioned earlier, in skills and technique, I think they are both world-class. Accomplishments, they're pretty equal. Quality of opposition, as I just stated before, I think Inoue just edges out Crawford. I think Inoue's been more active, and I think other than the Spence fight, Inoue's had more impact. I know that's a bit controversial, but think of the markets he's targeting, such as Japan. They're not heavy boxing audiences. He's got a whole country really interested in a sport which hasn't had that much clout for years, and it's a huge audience of that. Just look at his last fight for proof. Close to 60,000 people packed in an arena. You haven't seen that for a Crawford fight, have you? But hold on, don't just leave a comment going, oh he's stupid, and leave. I would love to hear your opinions on who's truly number 1. Let me know who tops your list and the reasons for it, because at the end of the day, that's what a pound for pound list is. Just opinion. But anyway guys, if you would consider liking and subscribing, that would be greatly appreciated. And I hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one.